We now start verse number 20. Teshamevanukam partham agamajnanakam tamaham nashayam yatma bhavasto jnanadipena bhasvatam. This verse exactly follows in Bhagavad Gita as the next verse to the previous one. The previous one which we finished yesterday, Tesham Satata Yukkana, that is the 10th verse in the 10th Adhyaya. This is the 11th verse in the same chapter. So, what is the background for this chapter? Previously he said, those who are constantly engaged in my remembrance, those who are at all times for 24 hours remembering the Atman, the Self, or the God, when they continuously go on doing it, they attain to the stage of Samadhi, hours together, sitting for hours together, and finally quietening their mind, the mind becomes quiescent, and thus the mind is completely immersed in the thoughts of Atman. Now by doing it for days together, for years together, these devotees naturally become tired. I mean, after all, the physical fitness depends on various factors like age, etc. So, as in when we grow in age, we find sitting together 3 hours is a big job. We are having arthritis, we are having spondylosis, the neck is paining, the knees are paining. We are unable to do much of this sadhana. With all that, they have been so persevering, overcoming all their handicaps. They have been able to engage themselves so constantly in thoughts of the Lord. So the Lord is highly compassionate. Even if you take it as the self, don't think that self is something which is inert. Self is all consciousness. As I said, an inert body, if I beat it, it cannot react. It cannot have resentment towards me, it cannot have ill will towards me, it cannot pay me back for the beating I gave it, because it is inert, it doesn't have the consciousness. What is consciousness? Consciousness is that ability to know that I exist, I am. That's all there is consciousness. To know that I am, it doesn't know that it is there. Nor does it know that you are all sitting here. While I know that I am, I exist, and I know that you all exist. And that is consciousness. That is called Chaitanya. So, that which is conscious, it has in its weight compassion, kindness, love, everything comes automatically. So, it is an Atman which is equally compassionate towards you. So, he says, Tesha mevanukampartham. Anukampa means sympathy, compassion. Compassion is called anukampa. Comfort to shake. When somebody is shaking with pain or shaking with grief, automatically we are also shaken. So, this is in response, it automatically comes like a reflexive action. So, anu means which follows. When somebody is shaking with grief, then it follows me, then I also begin to shake with equal grief. I do not even know why he is weeping for. It automatically comes. That is compassion. So, that is how the word compassion came. So, anukampartham, out of compassion, on whom, for whom, tesham, of those people. Which people? The people whom we have talked of in the previous verse. Satata yuktana. People who are always united with me in the thought, who do not think of anything else, who have nothing in this world to think of. All their thoughts centered around the Lord. All times, at all times, they may be eating, they may be drinking, they may be doing their office work, but inside they'll be thinking of the Lord. So, satata yuktana. And I already told you yesterday how to engage oneself continuously and incessantly in thoughts of Lord. That he had already defined. Machitta, madgata pranaha, bodhayanta parasparam, kathayantascha mam nityam, drishyanti charavanti. Machittaha, their thoughts, all their thoughts be around me. They don't think of New York, they don't think of Congress Party or BJP, what is happening in the news. They don't think of their grandson, they don't think of their daughter-in-law. All their thoughts center around the Lord. Machitta, Madgata Prana, the Lord is their very life, very vital breath. But for the Lord, they would rather give up their life. If only they had no hopes to have the realization of the Lord, they will no longer be alive. Because they would know their interest, their only interest is the Lord. If somebody were to tell them, no, you can never get Lord, they would rather commit suicide. Madgata Prana, their entire life is the Lord and nobody else. Just as the entire life for some people is their wife, for some people is their child, some people is their grandchild, for some people is their shares and debentures. And in the case of the devotees, their only avocation is the Lord, their only interest is the Lord, their only affection is centered in the Lord. They love the Lord alone and nobody else. Machitta, Madgata Pranaha, Bodhayanta Parasparam. Whenever they go to a party, they won't be talking on all sorts of subjects. They will try to say, see, look here. Yesterday I came across a passage in a book called Sadarsanam. It was so beautiful. So I will be recounting some sloka and I will be giving the meaning of it. Thus they will be awakening each other. Because they will have no other thoughts, they will have no other thoughts. So bodhayanta parasparam, awakening each other. Then kathayantascha mam nityam. Whenever they talk, it will talk about the Lord. Nothing else will come out of the mouth. That's all. So such people, they are called satata yuktas. That is, people who are constantly engaged in the memory of the Lord. So, in respect of such people who are constantly engaged in Atmanishta, to be established in the self, to be thinking of the self, to be absorbed in the self, I get compassion for them. That's what the Lord says. Anukampartham. So, out of compassion for such people, because I feel, oh, my devotee is getting tired, still he doesn't mind. So, he says, now I should do something for him quickly. Then what he does? Aham atmabhavastaha nashayami. Nashayami, I destroy. Destroy what? Tamaha, I destroy all that darkness. Where from the darkness has come? Ajnanajam, it has been generated out of their avidya or ignorance. Ignorance of what? What were the ignorant of? They didn't know who they are. That's all. See, there are people who have been thinking that they are the body, or they are the body-mind complex, or they are the Indriya Sanghata, the assembly of all the senses. Like that, people who have been wrongly hypnotized into thinking that they are the body. So, when once they leave it, and when once they know it is the Lord, when will they know? When they are satatayuta, when they are constantly engaged, in the previous sloka he says, I give them the discriminative wisdom. So in the discriminative wisdom they know there is no use of thinking about anything in the world. There is no use of thinking of our own body, because whatever diseases have to come for the body, whatever nourishment has to come for the body, whatever comforts are to come for the body, they have all been pre-recorded in the tape recorder of the Lord, in his cosmic recorder. So everything is going to happen as predestined by the Lord's will. So any amount of your efforts will not add a cubit more to your body, and it will not detract it even a little. It has to get its quota. Then why bother about it? They come to know. This is called discriminative wisdom. This is anatman. This is non-self. So as far as the non-self is concerned, whatever is to happen, they have also been determined. Then, this is the self, and self is a conscious one. So why has God given us that consciousness? That consciousness is given so that we will know that everything is temporal, everything is transient, everything is evanescent, nothing is going to last except the curtain on which this cinema is passing. The curtain is the only permanent thing, and all the figures which come from the cinema projector, they are all temporary. They will come, they go, come and go, appear, disappear. But the only thing which never disappears, which is always there, and that is the Atma. So they come to know that. So the Lord has given them the Buddhi Yoga. Now that they have got the Buddhi Yoga, now they do their contemplation. They go on meditating on that Atman or that Lord. That is called Atma Bhava. Atma Bhava means the mental vritti. That is the thoughts which emanate from the mind. And what are the thoughts? The thoughts are all centered around, we are around. They are suffused with, they are permeated with only the Lord, 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 Lord. So their mind is only thinking of Atman, Atman, Atman. Myself is like this. Myself has no eyes, no sees. It is not concerned with anything in the world. It is absolutely unconcerned. It is nirlipta. It is untainted. He goes on thinking of all the various non-attributes or attributes which are spread out from the Upanishads or from the Guru, from the preceptor. He goes on thinking. So that is called Atma Bhava. Atma Bhava means Antakarana Vritti. Antakarana Vritti means the thoughts which emanate from the concentrated thoughts, the thoughts which are concentrated on the Lord as the self. So that is called Atma Bhava. Atma means the self, Bhava means the thought. So the thoughts which are always concentrated, it is not only centered, it is concentrated on the Lord completely. And who is there in that meditation? Those very thoughts are the energy of the Lord. The Lord himself is present there. So he says, I am there sitting in that thought. So Atma Bhavastaha, being seated, being present in their thoughts which are always centered around me. When they go on thinking, the Lord has to come. He is compelled to come, and he is there in that very thought. The moment you are thinking of Atman, 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 the Atman is very much there. So, Atma Bhavastaha, being seated in that Atma Bhava, that is the thoughts concentrated on the Lord or on the self. Being there, Ajnanijam Tamaha Nashayami, I destroy the entire darkness which has come out of that avidya or ignorance, that is the ignorance of not knowing one's own nature and identifying ourselves wrongly with our body. And that is the ajnana. So, the entire darkness, because of which you do not know what to do and what not to do, so we are doing all the wrong things, worried about the job, worried about the food, worried about our clothes, worried about our positions, and thus we are wasting our time because we are in darkness. So, the Lord destroys the darkness. How does he do it? Jnanadipena Bhasvata. She carries around him the lamp of camphor, the lamp of jnana, the lamp of wisdom, and from that illumination that devotee is guided. It illuminates Jnanadipena Bhasvata. When once it illuminates the portion, where can the darkness be? The darkness disappears, the avidya disappears. So Jnanadipena Bhasvata. Bhasvata means the brilliant, the effulgent, the brilliant light. So Jnanadipena, the brilliant lamp of wisdom which the Lord carries in his hand, sitting in his very thoughts, the thoughts which are centered around his own self. With that he destroys that dense darkness in which we have all been working, in which we have fallen on account of ignorance, the ignorance of not knowing as to who we are and wrongly identifying ourselves with the body. So, Nashayami Atmabhavastaha Jnanadipena Bhasvata. Jnanadipa means that wisdom itself is that Deepa. What is the wisdom? The wisdom is the continuous thought. That is called the Jnanavritti. That is called the Akhandakara Vritti. So, what destroys the darkness? It is not that ultimate thing. Ultimate thing just comes. Ultimate thing cannot do any action. Because the ultimate bliss or the ultimate Atman, it is absolutely, it doesn't fight with anybody. It doesn't fight with anybody. So, first comes what is called Akhandakara Vritti, going on thinking of the Lord, leaving all other thoughts aside. Then that concentrated thought gets so much potential so that it blows off the cover of ignorance which has covered your jnana. Jnana is always there. Jnana is never lost. All of us are jnanis. Everybody has got that jnana. But unfortunately it has been clouded. It has been hidden in a veil. And this works like a suicide squad in that this vritti jnana or the thoughts which are centered around the Lord, it gets so powerful, it explodes away that veil which covers the ignorance, and in the process it is itself destroyed. It destroys itself, it commits suicide. And then what happens? Then when once the veil has been uncovered, you find the illumination of that ultimate knowledge or that ultimate consciousness, the super consciousness, which we call as the Atman. The Atman then is evident everywhere, just like the sun which is evident when once the clouds pass away. The clouds actually do not cover the sun, because the sun can never be clouded. It is we who are prevented from seeing the sun. Rather it covers us and not the sun. So when once it moves, you are able to see the sun. Similarly, no ignorance can cover that Lord. The Supreme Lord has got all the powers. It covers you only. It covers you, and when that veil has been exploded out, well, that ultimate Atman alone remains. Next, Jnane natu tada jnanam yesham nachitam atmanah tesham aditya jnanam prakashayati tat param. This comes in the earlier period, because this comes in the 5th chapter, while the previous one was in the 10th chapter. But it will look from its meaning as if it's in continuation. That is how Bhagavan has selected it, because it just fits in with the previous slokas. Jnane natu tada jnanam yesham nachitam atmanah. Now as I said, this vritti jnana means the empirical knowledge that there is an Atman and going on thinking of him. You have not yet seen him. You have not yet realized that. So, that vritti jnana, where out of your knowledge from the scriptures, knowledge from the Guru, you are continuously thinking of him, and that knowledge that there is an Atman should be like this, Atman is untainted, Atman has no favorites, Atman is equal towards all, Atman has no friends or foes. So this sort of thing going on thinking of it, this is called the vritti jnana, the wisdom of thought. You are only thinking, this is a thought yet. Final stage comes when all thoughts stop. There will be no thought. The thoughts themselves are destroyed, which is called the manonasha. It is also called as unmani bhava. That is where the mind becomes a no mind. So that is the ultimate process. But initially to come to the stage, you have to use your mind, go on constantly thinking of it, and then what happens? This vritti jnana, it goes, it fights, and it explodes away the darkness. Yesham jnanena tu tat ajnanam atmanaha jnanena tat ajnanam nashitam. In respect of those people, yesham, in respect of those people, whose ajnana or ignorance, nashitam, has been destroyed. Destroyed by what? Atmanaha jnanena. By the wisdom of Atman. They only know that there is an Atman. So, on having that front, they are going on concentrating their entire thoughts, their entire mind on that, the vritti jnana. So, Atmanaha jnanena, by that wisdom of the self. So, for those people who have destroyed the ignorance by this vritti jnana or this wisdom of the self, then what happens? Then you need not call the Brahman, you need not get the Atman from somewhere, and Atman is not to be obtained from elsewhere. It has already been there, it has been there previously too, it continues to exist at all times. Only thing is, when your veil has been pierced through, then you see that a jnana being effulgent like the sun. It is automatically there, it has always been there. It is just like as I was telling you, that in Tanjore there is one Kamakshi, that's called a Bangaru Kamakshi, made of gold. And originally it was somewhere in the north. So when the Muslims came and they were trying to ravage those temples, so some of the Brahmins there, they took it away, they hid it in their lab, and they came to Tanjore and installed it. At that time, having been subjected to a lot of, we are in the habit of putting a lot of oil and all that. So oil and dust, oil and dust, oil and dust, the entire thing was black like. In fact, many of the people who took it, they were not even aware that it was gold. They only knew that it is valuable because it is Kamakshi, the Divine Mother. But they were not aware of its intrinsic value. I mean, not the intrinsic value, that external value, that is the gold. They didn't know. But one day, one of the boys had a brilliant idea. He said, let me just wash it very well. When he washed it, the brilliance came out. So, does it mean that it became gold only then? No, it is always gold. But something was just hiding it. When once that dirt has been removed, by itself it was shining. Similarly, Yesham Adityavadhyanam Prakashayati Tatparam. Then the jnana comes. Adityavati, it just shines like the sun. And Prakashayati, it illumines whom? It illumines that Atman. Tatparam, that transcendental thing which is called Atman, which is called the God, which is called the Lord. So that is being illumined automatically, because that ultimate Atman is in itself in the form of the knowledge. Knowledge, we always conceive it as the light. As we say, can you throw light on this passage? So light is equal to knowledge. So the Lord is all consciousness. He is all knowledge. He is all effulgent, brilliant. So a torchlight doesn't require another torch to show it. When only the torchlight is shining, it illumines all the objects, it illumines itself. You can see the torch too in the same light. So similarly, then that jnana which comes, it begins to shine, and by shining, it is able to make you realize the ultimate Atman, because this light itself is verily the Atman, so it illumines itself. It is called the self-effulgent, self-revealing. Prakashayati tatparam, tatparam, that transcendental thing, that is the Atman. Prakashayati, it illumines. Then he comes face to face with the Atman, the journey ends. The journey never started, the journey would never end, the entire thing again was a dream. He was always the jnana was always there. It was only in a dream that there is a veil. So in the dream the veil was exploded, and now he sees. Now the very dream has been exploded, he is now in reality, he has become the reality. The next one. Indriyani paranyapuku indriyebhya param manaham manasastu para buddhi jo buddhe paratastu saha. This sloka has got a beautiful background. The background is like this, and it's a background which should be of interest to every sadhak, every aspirant life. So about 15 or 18 years back, or perhaps even 20 years back, there is a very famous saint in the Ramakrishna mission who is today the president of the entire Ramakrishna mission. His name is Swami Shankarananda, one of the most erudite scholars and tapasvi. He had been to, I think it was Geneva, where there is Interpol, there is the international police which coordinate with the police of the entire world, all the countries. They are called Interpol organization. They had invited him for a speech. You know how he started his speech? He said, well, this is a police organization, and you people are not only interested in detecting crimes and punishing the criminals, But one of your most important subject is preventive criminology. How to prevent a criminal from committing a crime? Why should at all a man commit a crime? What is it that makes him commit a crime? So what are the factors behind it? Is it possible for us in a society to eliminate these factors so that either there will be no more criminals or the crime will come less and less? So this is called the preventive criminology. And he said, for you it is a new subject. For us it is a very old subject which Krishna has dealt with in his Gita. What happened? All of a sudden Arjuna puts him a question. A very beautiful question. Athakena prayuktovayam paramacharya Purushottamanada. Look here, we find a person suddenly commits a crime. He goes and just takes a sword or something, whatever is available, he finishes his wife. She is dead. And perhaps sometimes he goes and he confesses to the police and he hands himself over to the police. There have been so many cases. And all the people are surprised because he is a man who is well known for his non-violent temperament. And they say he is a man who cannot swat a fly. How could it happen? How did he do it? So, atakena prayuktoyam papam charati purusha. A man suddenly commits a crime, impulsively. So, who is it that has compelled him to do it? Because by his nature, he was not so criminal-minded at all. And not only that, he never used to go into any temper at all. A very pacific man. How could he do it? And how did he do it? Anichanati varshneya. He never wanted to do it. His mind was rebelling against it, but something forced him. Baladiva niyojita, as if there is some devilish force sitting inside, which is forcing him, do it, finish off. Something like that. So what is that force which in spite of me, which is impelling me to commit such crimes? It's a beautiful question. And Krishna, he was as simple as Bhagavan often in his answers. It used to be very clear. He said it's very easy. He puts it into two ways, the immediate cause and the final cause, like that. Immediate cause is, he says, Kamayesha, Krodhesha, Rajoguna Samadbhava, Mahachano, Mahapapma, Vidhyena Vijavaidinam. You know who is the enemy who is compelling you to do such crimes which you never thought of committing it even in your dream? That is called Kama, Krodha. One is desires, passion, lust. These are all have got one name called Kama. Kama means all desires. All desires could result in this. A desire for a bidi. You see, some 15 years back when I was in Meerut, the landlord of the house where I used to stay, he was sleeping in being summer season, normally in such places, because it's not a big city, it's a town. So people used to put their cots outside on the road and they were sleeping. One lorry was coming. The lorry wala wanted badly to have a beedi. He had a beedi, but he didn't have a match. He stopped the car, stopped the lorry. It was night, 12 o'clock. He woke up the chap, one of the chaps, that is the landlord of my, the residential building, and told him, hey, get me a matchbox. He said, what very nonsense, night 12 o'clock, you wake me up for a match, nothing doing, get out. Then this fellow, he took out a pistol which he had and shot him point blank. Look here, just for a beedi, he has given that a murder. So it is desires which cause all crimes, and they are your greatest enemies. And the gross form is called Krodha. When that desires get intensified, it becomes anger. Because if your desire doesn't get satisfied, if there is any impediment or obstruction which doesn't allow you to fulfill your desires, then naturally the temper comes. You get into a temperament, you become irate. This is what happens. So these are the two main factors which are responsible for all the crimes in the world. And then Arjuna says, I am a warrior. Please tell me, give me their address. I'll go and slay them all. I will destroy them. I'll shoot them all. Then Bhagavan, Lord Krishna, says, well, it is not one house. They have got 3 houses. One house is called mind, kama and krodha, or mental aberrations. They are all in the mind. They are all thoughts. But they are all obsessive thoughts, which doesn't allow you a mint of rest. They will always be compelling you, compelling you, compelling you. Get an obsessive desire. And so, mana. And the other one is the senses. Mana, buddhi and senses. The mind, the intellect and the various senses. And then in that connection, Arjuna says, well, they have got 3 houses. I am sure they will be having a lot of strength in them. I like to have the help of somebody who is superior in strength to these senses and the mind and the intellect, so that I can take his succor, I can take his help, and then I can destroy these forces, these evil forces called the passion, lust, desire, and anger. Please tell me. Then, this is the shloka which comes, where he says, who is the strongest person whose help you can take in order to fight with these devilish forces, known as kama and krodha? He says, Indriyani paranyatuhu indrikebhya param manaham manasatthu para buddhi yo buddhe parasatthu saha. First he says, take the indriyas, the senses, because it is your senses which feeds your desires. The eye sees a picture. That picture immediately starts various thoughts. You would like to utter something like that as you saw in the picture. You get fascinated by it. Similarly, you taste something, so that taste just impels you to have more of it in future, so that you will be able to have it. Just for the sake of one pizza, see, a millionaire went in States. He went to a hotel, a very big international hotel like a restaurant. He went and said, called the waiter came. He said, hey, I want pizza. By American standards, pizza have all become obsolete. So it's a top hotel, they don't prepare pizza. He said, sorry sir, no pizza, please go away. Oh, is it? The fellow is a billionaire. He just went to the counter. He just rang up somebody for 5-10 minutes. And then he came back and sat at his place and rang to the waiter. The waiter again came, a little angry at being disturbed once more. He said, look here, I have already phoned up and this hotel has changed hands. I am now the owner of it. Within 15 minutes the transaction is over, this hotel is mine. Either you give me pizza or you go out. See, for the sake of a pizza, to what length we go. At least that fellow was capable of fulfilling his desires, not all. And we'll be going on thinking of it, having depressions, so that fellow has not given me the pizza, and what does he think he is? Our ego comes, and you'll be going on thinking of it for days together. This is what will happen. So, these senses are very dangerous, because only when you imbibe, when you inherit all the worldly things, when it comes inside, it is the impact of the entire worldly things which causes desires in you. So, what you have to do is, you will have to reason through your mind and intellect, and then prevent the senses from somehow going outside into the world. If there is a beautiful music going on, shut your ears mentally. Here is general noise, you are not hearing what song is going on. That's called a total perception where you don't individualize each noise. It's a very good type of meditation. The evening you go, sit conveniently, and then all the noises will be going on. There will be some cuckoo which will be singing, and then there will be a child which will be weeping, there will be a girl next door who will be learning her music, fundamental basic notes. But you don't care, you don't distinguish, the entire thing is a total, there is a noise, be lost in it, that's all. So that is called the totality, total perception, where you don't individualize each thing. Oh, this is that girl singing, this is that child weeping. He is not aware even of weeping, he is only aware of the total noise. Similarly, you go and sit and you see, you are not aware what plant it is, what sort of a tree it is, you only see in general all green, and you lose yourself in the total perception. Again, don't distinguish, oh, this is that plant, this is the one which I brought from China, oh, this one is one which is not growing nicely. Don't at all distinguish, remain in the totality. So, to control the senses, you will have to see that they do not go to particular objects. When they are in general, nobody will desire in general. Nobody wants to have the entire thing like that. So people want a particular tree, particular fruit, particular leaf, particular flower. So when you don't distinguish between a flower and a tree and the earth, and when you are having a total view of it, then no desire will come. So by some means, you will have to control it. So superior to the body, the indriyas are. Indriyani paranyahu. See, first we take the body. The body is not mentioned here. So, but obviously it means, if it is superior, superior to what? It is superior to the body. Body is gross. The senses are not gross. By senses, I do not mean this external organ of eye or the external organ of the nose. The senses behind it. It is the energy behind it which is able to smell. It is the energy behind it which is the sight, which is the vision which gives you the vision. I am talking of that. They are called the senses. So the eye is not the sense, the energy which is behind the eye. That's actually, its nomenclature is senses. So, these senses being subtle, and not only that, their jurisdiction is wider. Body's activities are limited. They are limited to the place where you are. But the indriyas can go far. Somewhere in the 10th house, somebody is preparing dosha. Already my olfactory nerves are giving me a signal. Oh, nice masala dosha is going on. Like that. So thus, the jurisdiction of the senses are more extensive and wider than the body. And that is why these indriyas, they are considered as superior, these senses, like the eye, the nose, the tongue. So these are all the various senses like. So we have got five senses of action. So these are far superior to the body. Paraha, parani. Para here means simply superior. See, para has got several meanings. One is later on, another is transcendental, and another is superior. Here it only means superior, not transcendental. It means this is superior to the body. Indriyani, parani, ahu. Ahu means the wise men declare. The wise men declare. They proclaim. Ahu, it is proclaimed. It is proclaimed that these senses, indriyani, these senses, parani, they are superior. That means superior to the body. Now, but indriya is the very house where you have to read, because the kama and krodha, the anger and this desire, they are residing there. So I can't take their help. So who is superior to them then? Indriyebhya paramana. Yes. Superior to the indriyas is the mind. Because this indriya's jurisdiction is always only outside. While the mind is more subtle, And the mind is aware at all times of the activities of the senses. But the senses are not aware of the thoughts. So the one who impels them to act, it is the mind which impels the eye to act. It is the mind which impels the ears to act. So all their functions are activated by the mind. So the mind is superior to these indriyas, to these senses. It is far superior. Because, number one, mind has got more of the chaitanya in it. Because the consciousness comes, the reflection is there, the mind and buddhi, which becomes the jiva. So, the mind is half inert and half conscious life. So naturally, while the indriyas and the body, they are all inert. And secondly, these senses act only in the presence of the mind. Supposing I am just looking at the place, but I am thinking of something else. And supposing this gentleman comes before me and stands, not half an hour I am lost in my thought, suddenly I notice, oh Mr. Narayanan, when did you come? He said, I came half an hour back, where were you? So, unless the mind conjoins, even though the eyes are staring, the eyes can never see. They require the impelling force, the propelling force of the mind. So the mind is considered as superior to the senses. Then, manasastu para buddhihi. Alright, but the mind itself is another house whose address you gave, where they still reside. So I have to raid it also. So I want a raiding party, somebody superior. Who is there? Oh, you want that? Buddhi or intellect, which takes decision. What is the difference between mind and intellect? The mind is called sankalpa vikalpatmaka mana, which is full of thoughts that I want to do this, I want to do this. Then it always gives other alternatives. I won't do this, I will do the other one. So it deals with thoughts, it deals with alternatives. It is a clerk working in an office whose business is only to put up the papers, the officer, he cannot take a decision. He will only say, the Sanyasa man is represented, the paper is put up for decision. He can't take a decision. Mind is a clerk. The officer who takes a decision is buddhi. He is called nishchayatmika buddhi. The intellect is the one. See, it is again splitting of hair. Actually, there is nothing called a buddhi, there is nothing called a mind. It is the same force which sometimes sits in the chair of buddhi and takes the decision. It is the same which works as a clerk. There is only one person. He works as a clerk, he puts up the paper to himself, he goes there and takes the decision. That's all. So there is only one officer. Sometimes it so happens. There are three big officers in a station. There is a commissioner, there is a collector, there is a income tax commissioner. Supposing two of the officers are out, only the collector is there, the government will tell the collector, for 2 weeks, for 14 days, you please look after the other things also. So the collector in the afternoon goes and sits in the chair of the income tax commissioner, then he won't do the work of a collector. He will not deal with revenues, he will deal with only the income tax. So thus, it is the same officer who sits in the various chairs. But for purpose of our own, see, it's all a bit difficult to understand it, but due course, they will all come by hearing it. So it is the same force which works as mind, it works as buddhi. But buddhi is considered as separate for all practical purposes because it has got a separate role also. Just as income tax is different from the collector's office. Similarly, their respective jurisdiction of work is different. Their roles are different. So, nishchayatmika buddhi. So this buddhi is the one who takes the decision over the mind. He is the boss of the mind, and not only that. The intellect is aware of the mind's activities. But the mind doesn't know what decisions the officer is going to take. So naturally, and it is the buddhi or the intellect which has decided. See, it only has got the knowledge. Now the mind will pass on the information to the indriyas. The indriyas, my eye sees the fact. It only gives the picture of it inside, it passes on to the mind. The mind puts it up to buddhi. The mind doesn't recognize it. It is the intellect which recognizes and says, oh, this is the fan. So it is the intellect which has decided and has finally come to the conclusion that this is a fan. So this knowledge comes from the intellect. The mind only passes on the picture which the indriyas or which the senses have given. It has just to pass on the papers to the boss. It is the boss who comes to the conclusion that this is a fan. So now, manasastu para buddhi. So naturally, buddhi is the master, the intellect is a master, and naturally it is superior to the mind, the intellect or the reasoning faculty which takes the decision. See, buddhi can also be called the reasoning faculty because you reason out and then you come to a decision. So that reasoning is done only by the intellect. So the reasoning faculty is above the mind. It is superior to the mind. Then, now buddhi is another house. You told 3 houses, these are the 3 houses. Tell me somebody else who is superior to them all. Yes, I have come to that. Yo buddhe hai paratahatu saha. Beyond the mind is that Atman. Beyond the mind is that Atman whom the intellect cannot catch, but he can catch the intellect. The intellect or the mind is not aware of him, but he is aware of the intellect, he is aware of the body, he is aware of the indriyas. Ultimately, he is the one who propels all these things. Kineshitam padati prekshitam mana. There is a Kenoprishad starts, who is the one behind this prana, who makes this vital breath function, who makes this eyes see, who is it that makes the ears hear. And then he says, you do not know, there is one behind this prana, another breathe. Pranasya prana, chakshusya chakshu, manaso mana. So he is the mind of the mind, he is the eye of the eye. That means this eye gets all its power from the other eye. That eye is called the Atman. So the Atman of the Supreme Being, or that super consciousness, which is the ultimate absolute, which is the eternal, which is always immortal, that is behind it all. Jo buddhe hai parataha saha. So the one who is behind the buddhi, the one who is superior to the intellect, the one who is superior to the mind, the one who is superior to the senses, the one who is superior to the body, superior to all these complexes, he is that ultimate Atman. He is the Lord. Take his help, contemplate on him, meditate on him, and you will be able to get rid of your kama, you will be able to get rid of your krodha, and all these things can be brought under control. You will have to control your mind, you will have to control your senses. So you start with the senses, because if the senses are controlled, then outside objects cannot come in at all. Then it will be easier to control the mind, it will be easier to control the intellect. Start from there. You will have to control it. How to control it? It's not possible for all. Pray to the Atman. Pray to that Lord. Prayers have got a lot of depth. It is profound. It is only a terminology. So he will not destroy himself. And even if you want to destroy himself, how will he destroy himself? No weapon can pierce the Atman. So, fire, water, whatever he has got, nothing can do. So he cannot even commit suicide. If there is one person who cannot commit suicide, it is God. Everybody else can. Nobody can cause any harm or destruction to this Atman. Atman is indestructible. See, again and again, Bhagavan has said only two slokas from the very beginning to show that Atman, it is invulnerable, it is always permanent, it never had a beginning, it will never have an end, it is not possible to destroy. The idea behind this, as I was telling, everybody is afraid of death. See, death seems to be looming large like a Damocles sword over our head. If only somebody were to be told on the 30th day from today you are going to have death, he will even have it much earlier. Because from that day onwards he will be afraid, he will not know what is happening, he will immediately feel that as if there are some beats which are missing, he will go to the doctor cannot find anything. So all the things will stop. So Bhagavan wants to tell us, look here, you are all immortal. Every one of us is immortal. The fact that you and I can never die. We are immortal. It is known even to a small child. You give a 10 rupee note to a small child, keep it, this is my gift on Pungal Day. Now the child has kept it in his notebook, in his copybook, and kept it. 2 days later it opened it, the notebook was there. 10 rupee note currency was not there. Just like this, no, nowhere to be found. Now the child can never think, oh, my note has died. It knows, no, it has gone to a different place. It cannot. Somebody might have taken it. So it would have only changed hand. Somewhere else it has gone. It can never die. So he will go and ask his mother, Mummy, who took my note, the currency note which you gave me? I kept it in my notebook. So even a child knows that there is nothing in the world which can die. They are only transfer of place. It can go from here to somewhere else. And secondly, life, to live eternally, it is something natural to us. It's our birthright for the Bhagavan. And that is why when something abnormal happens, you always question. When something which is normal is daily happening, you never question. See, I just heard that a friend of mine, who till yesterday I was talking to, he expired yesterday, he died. The moment I hear, I was asked, what happened? What happened? How did it happen? I say, yesterday evening I was talking to him, because you find that death is something which is abnormal, that is why you are questioning. Otherwise, every day you are coming, you are seeing Shantananda. Does anyone come here and ask me, Swamiji, you are alive? You are alive? No, you never question. When a man is dead, you are questioning what happened. You don't come and question, you are alive. What happened? You ask? No. Because you take it for granted that Shantananda will never be there. He is the Atman. So he is immortal. So this is a common fact. We are always immortal. The Vedas say, Amritasya putra, Shrinvante me Amritasya putra.